Hey, glad you can make it. Welcome to Fantasy Dad Pods, where dad bods are glorified and dad jokes are encouraged. I'm JT, accompanied by Sean. Sean, how we doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Had me and the wife took the day off today from work because we big news, I guess, for both of us over the weekend. Both of our kiddos had birthdays, so that was what we did this weekend, and we wanted to take a day off to recover from all that jazz. So we took a day off, and then it was let's see, I had to take the car in, did all that. Wife was doing some stuff around the house. I come back, she's in the front yard pulling some weeds, and one of the areas has like you might have seen it, but I'll explain it to people in the pod. It has like we have a couple cylinder blocks that we had because before we had laid concrete in our backyard, there's a pretty big gap in between the gate and like the bottom. So we wanted to kind of like close it a little bit so the dog couldn't get out. So it's some
Yeah.
cylinder blocks, and we just have set them off to the side now in the front yard because the back is concreted and the front will be concreted probably this year, maybe next year. But had them off, and then it was harder to weed whack that area. So some tall grass had grown around it. I pull up, I'm getting there, I'm ready to mow the lawn and everything. While she's in the backyard, or while she's in the front yard, and I hear like this scream, and I'm like, "What?" I think it's like neighborhood kids or something. About I didn't even think it was a Monday at school. I didn't even think about it. I'm like, whatever. Don't think two things of it. Hear another one. My wife comes running in the backyard. I'm like, what's going on? And the dog comes slowly walking. She doesn't really care what's going on. She just followed mom. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, there's a snake in the front yard. I'm like, I go, and so I had to get the snake, but I had a snow shovel, but it was a big snow shovel because I wanted to grab it, but it was so stuck in the grass I couldn't scoop the grass with it. So good old hockey stick got in there, was able to put it in the bucket, walked it down the street to the little patch of desert we have a couple blocks down, and I said, "Hey, this is your one get out of jail free card. You come back.
Right.
You're not going back to the desert." So we had to talk, and me and him, and a little garden, little like bull snake, I think it was. But we had a little chat, like, "Hey, this is you come over here, chill out." But yeah, I don't know if you, JT, but we've been getting. I've seen three snakes like 2 blocks away now, like during the summer, and I saw one on the street like a block like further off, and then one like in that same exact area I was when I was walking the dog one time because there's a trail that goes off two different ways, kind of in the desert for a little bit. And I saw one, all little snakes, and then this one too, a little snake. I think all there's not we're growing houses out here, and there's not as much food, and the snakes are kind of like getting a little bit more towards. And I'm like, this is you are getting the wrong way. You got to fight over this way for the food. It is coming the wrong
Yeah.
way. So I'm trying to tell the snakes, I'm like, hey, you got to do this. So that was fun. Then we saw a black widow in our backyard too. So I took care of that one. We're not playing games with that. Yeah, so it was a fun day of things that could kill dogs and small children in the front yard. I don't think the bull snake could have, but I was just like, oh my gosh, here we go. So that was today. We cleaned that up. We solved some of those issues, but yeah, eventful day. Got the yard work done. Uh, got some workout in and did some stuff around the house, but got one more day off tomorrow, and I got to put up some curtains in the youngest room now. He's old enough now where the sun's going to start waking him up, and now we're getting towards winter time, so it's not as big of a deal. But it was like just a couple weeks ago, he was getting up at 6:30 when the sun came out. So we're like, okay, let's put some curtains on because you're seeing what's you're always up for something once the sun comes up, and we want to sleep a little bit more. So it's our way of doing
Yeah.
a project tomorrow. So projects, birthday parties all weekend. It's a lot. It was a lot, but it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. How about you?
Well, yeah, very similar birthday parties. Plus we had the bounce house in the backyard, so the oldest got to invite friends over Friday, but Friday was kind of crummy weather, so they got to play a little bit until it got really bad while their sweatshirts and stuff were drying. I was like, all right, we're playing Mario Kart. It's either going to be N64 style upstairs or Switch downstairs. And so I thought I was doing the dad type of thing pretty well, teaching the youngins the Mario Kart, getting them all in like a tournament mode. So that was pretty fun. We had the football games Saturday, second last game of the season for each, whereas the oldest has playoff implications. We played we're the junior Bombers and we're playing the junior Falcons, and I was telling kids at practice last week, I was like, this team is for real. They are they play 7-on-7 spring ball, and you only can pass in that league. This team will pass on us. This is what to expect. Show up, be prepared to battle. Like, I didn't say it to them. I didn't want to intimidate them too much, but I wanted to challenge them. But that team had their least scoring game out of the first 4 games was 25 points was their least scoring game. So they're scoring pretty well. But it just so happens it was junior bomber night for the actual football game on Friday night, the night before, and that's a late game. That was against Kennewick, and that was a nail biter. It was like, can't leave early because it was a 13-14 loss, and so we stayed till the end. So it was a late night and then an early morning game, and the kids just were still like out of it, tired. So but we held them. We still held them to their lowest amount, but it's still, it's not 6-19 is not what I was hoping for. I thought we could have played better. But they're young, they're kids, and they didn't show up. And it was like, all right, well, that's what we get. Let's learn from it. It's still got one more game, and I should be able to make the playoffs. So, yeah,
That's funny to say that. We played Mario Kart tonight as well. Switch style.
There you go.
Switch style. Yep. So I feel that. Mario Kart all the way.
Yeah, Garrett loves Smash Brothers. That's when any screen time he gets. No, on the Switch, he'll just handheld tablet style it, and he'll just go Smash Brothers for whatever screen time he's able to do.
Hey, Smash Bros. That's also classic. Not as classic as Mario Kart, but still classic. I'll say this: we play round of 8 we play coins. The 3, me and the wife and the oldest. Youngest, 1.5 is a little too much to probably ask for him to hold the controller and stay focused. So he goes to bed, and then we play, and we play the computer, and the computer we set it for easy, but it was kind of, there's 2 maps where I've had like 17 coins, and it's like bam, 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 and I'm down to like 4. The game, and then the round ends. So I'm like, are these people like really easy? Like, because I feel like I'm getting coins, and they're like, let's kill them. Like, I'm just like, what's going on? Did I move it to hard or something? Like, I feel like I got to try here. And so do that. We're down by like so many rounds, like so many coins going into the rounds. I'm like, okay, usually, we're 3 rounds in, we're okay. We're in the lead, and we're winning by like 40 or something like that. We're down by like 11 going to the last round. And I'm like, oh no, we're toast. We're toast. We're done. And then all of a sudden, we come up clutch, and literally with 1 second on the clock, I'm trailing this guy. Green shell, hit him, take the coin. We win by, technically didn't need it. We won by 3. So we were up by 1, and I took 1, got us 1. So, but still, it was like extra. It was literally, it got intense tonight. 1 second on the clock, and we pulled it out, overall win. So it was we only won 2 of the 6 rounds, but that's how big we won those 2 rounds by. So needed every single coin of it. So that's intense. I respect the Mario Kart game, JT, this weekend. I respect it. Got to teach the kids. Got to teach them.
Absolutely. Also, was teaching them some Monday Night Football tonight, so that was good too.
Speaking of Monday Night Football, we don't want to give a spoiler away, but maybe Dad Bod Player of the Week's going to be coming from that game. But if you watch the game, you'll definitely understand what we're talking about. But before we do that, I guess we could talk about all the injuries that have happened over the week, and I guess some of the ones that are big is Joe Mixon status still up in the air. Does he have like a hammy? Is that, I couldn't remember what it was. I don't roster him in any league, so I couldn't remember. I believe it was like a tissue thing. It doesn't say. Oh,
ankle. Yeah.
It was a sprain. Yeah. So he's still up in the air. It's unfortunately the 2 Wale, I used to be able to pronounce his name, and Cam Akers will split snaps again, but that's how that one's going. Nico Collins, we were planning on talking to him, going week to week. Again, that just means Tank Dell. Tank Dell's gonna. The both Philly receivers gonna play week 6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Zach Moss, he looks to be okay. And then you got anybody else here? I'm trying to see here.
Richardson ended up being out at quarterback. That was kind of like they didn't really talk about much. So I'm like, the less they talk about it, it seems like it was trending downward, and then it's confirmed. So Flacco got the start. So and keep tabs on that for this next week 6. But again, it's just kind of one of those hit pointer things. So
It's
see if you can endure.
hip. Aaron Jones as well left with a hip in the game. They have a bye week next week. The Vikings do, but you never know with those hips. So especially with running backs, that could be big. Let me see here. Any other fantasy worthy? Christian Watson. That's gonna linger for a little bit. So as someone who let me tell you this, JT, I could have either had Christian Watson or JSN straight up. I thought I screwed that up a week 2 real bad, but not looking like either one is really making the impact they thought they would. But I think with suspensions of Dobbs and other things, if Watson was playing, it'd be really nice to have him in the mix there for the Packers. It looks like all the 49ers are getting healthy at the right time. Anybody else? Achane got a concussion, so that is to monitor for that team. But yeah, 49ers getting healthy right when it matters, right?
Yeah, I was like, perfect time for Seahawks fans. So
of course.
Thursday. Where's the game at?
In Seattle.
In Seattle, okay.
Yeah, parents are actually going to that game, so there we go.
Nice.
So
I also see Devonta Smith should be expected to return week 6, so that's positive news there. Whereas AJ Brown as well, hamstring, should return week 6.
Yep, I see Cooper Kupp. They dig in. They have a bye week next week, but should return week 7. So that is nice for fantasy owners there. Yeah, I think we could go on from here, but I think that's good for now.
Yeah, other than me reading about some random, I don't even know what position he plays. Based on his picture, I'm going to guess he's an offensive lineman. I can click on it. Austin Corbett. I don't know. I was reading his thing. I'm like, Panthers center. Yep, he's offensive lineman. Tore his biceps out for the season. He had season-ending knee injury last year, and the year before he tore his ACL. He's just on a bad 3-year streak. I just feel bad for the guy. Like anybody, that's rough. Ouch.
Anytime you have multiple and they're never the same either. It's always like it's something else. You feel like you're kind of cursed. You're like, well, if it's the same knee, like, oh, we didn't fix it. Or you're like, tore this shoulder, bicep ripped out, ACL. You're like, oh my gosh, it's not even like one thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's those linemen too. It's like just one guy falls in your ACL. There you go. 300 pounds.
Right.
You see that guy engage with a block. Other guy. It's usually your own teammate too, which got to be like the worst feeling ever. You like fall on your own lineman. Yeah, that's got to be just the worst feeling. But I think the next thing to do is let's look at targets, JT.
All right.
The thing I noticed is some guy named Garrett Wilson got 22.
I've heard of him
in week 5. That'd be that is about the 50th total of all pass catchers. He'd be about just in 1 week alone. So that's pretty good. Turns out Aaron Rodgers seems to have found his dude. And Aaron Rodgers did get hurt, but he's expected to play. So we didn't touch on that one, but because that one looks like to be good. Malik Neighbors is still second despite not playing in week 5. Wan'Dale Robinson only getting 9 targets, still 4th, which didn't do a whole lot for actual fantasy people who rostered him, which you're talking to one. But it just shows you that those two guys in any given week are going to be the two dudes. So feel good about those two Giants players at least. Let's see who else got a bunch of targets week 5. Darnell Mooney, JT. There's a lot of on Twitter Mooney's finally coming to his own. Thoughts? I mean, week 1, 3, week 2, 0. Then the last couple weeks have been nice, but are you at least considering this or what?
Well, I mean, if you think Kirk Cousins will throw for 500 yards every game, then yeah, I'd consider it. But I'm trying to parse out what kind of league I'd have I think Pitts Mooney.
Is done. I think he's not getting nothing. So is Mooney now the number 2? Is that basically a justification for it? Is he taking over the number 2 spot of what everyone thought Pitts would be?
In terms of that offense, yeah, for sure. Um, I'm trying to label him. I'm like, are you? I'm to me, it's like wide receiver four ish, depending on the week. But I mean, bye weeks are starting to happen, so I mean, you could get the bump, could that like consideration for that flex spot. But otherwise, it's kind of tough here. Let me pull up the snap count for him. So I've got McLeod and Mooney, 85 snaps, which was a 98% of the
85
offensive.
snaps.
They,
Well, I mean, I guess
yeah, just snaps.
that's I'm just saying, like that's so
Whereas
many plays. Like that 85. Oh my gosh.
out of 87, yeah, so 98%.
Oh my God.
Whereas like even London was only at 73.
Do you
Mooney's
have the snaps easily pull upable for each week for them?
no, I got to scroll a bunch, and I can't.
Uh,
I
I'm
unless
wondering
I search on Falcon, I could try it because I
like,
just
I
use the
wonder what their
Twitter here.
snap count was just in total for the team in week 4. Because like, can we just like say like, hey, they had he had 16 targets on 80 snaps, like that's X percentage, but like, was that like was 16 only because they had like double the snaps from the week before? They had like 40 snaps or something like that. Like,
Yeah, here's week 4. I was able to just filter. So they had 56 snaps last week,
so a 30
and
bump, and then he went 10 more snaps. I mean,
they're
it's
going
probably
3 wide receiver sets. I mean, because their McLeod, London, Mooney trio had
yeah.
54 more snaps, so 96% or more. So I mean, like that's
It probably correlates to about a 10 target week on a normal week. So I mean, like
hmm
you get an 8 week target in week 3, then a 10 in week 4, or 10 in week 5. That's not bad. That's not bad. So okay,
I just
okay,
feel
that's
like
easier to swallow than like it's all just because they just ran so many plays. Of course, someone's gonna get targeted.
right. I feel like London. I mean, he's had what 13 targets this week, 12 last week,
Not
and
nine.
then
Yeah,
both Mooney and then Ray McLeod. Not quite double digits each week, but like that's a lot to go around when you're talking about like still those 3 receivers having well over like almost 30 targets collectively between the 3 of them.
yeah,
I mean, that's a lot of passing, and but I mean, like I'm seeing, like it's their offense has 3 wide receivers out there 96% of the time.
yep.
Like that's what they're rolling with, and it's just a single back with the Kyle Pitts. So I mean,
And those are clearly the 3 too. So
yeah, I mean at that point it's just kind of comes down to
Kyle Pitts only has 19 targets on the season.
bum.
Cooper Cup has 27. Let's put it that way. He hasn't played since week 3. So, yeah, wow. Okay, yeah, okay.
I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Jalen Tolbert because it was the Jalen Tolbert show against the Dallas versus Pittsburgh game. I got to see a decent amount of that game. It's just like everywhere he was, and then um, I mean, he came up with some really big catches, and then especially at the very end of it, the touchdown to seal it right after you thought he was going to be out because of the previous play, like pulling his groin or something like that. Like he
Yeah.
was just limping. They had to call a timeout, and then so 10 targets. It's just I feel like he's out there because
He out targeted CD. Like,
yeah, and Cooks is now on the IR. So Tolbert, I think, is definitely the second wide receiver on that team. It's just I don't know where he falls in terms of fantasy, but the whole storyline, that they're going to what who is it? Al Michaels and who's the other guy?
it's the college football guy. Kirk.
No, then I'm thinking of the wrong trio. Who you Alan Michaels used to be with?
Oh,
The old
uh,
Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver. He's got the isms.
Chris Collinsworth.
Yes, thank you. Chris Collinsworth. He just kept talking about, man, Tolbert and Dak all offseason because you didn't know what CD was going to do. And so they got a really good rapport. Well, it's like there's something to be said for that. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit, but
Well, they like to throw,
um,
and if you just really in that offense, if they're going to cover CD Lamb, you really want to know who the number 2 is because Dallas is going to throw the football. We've talked about it. Like the running situation on that team. The number 2 is going to get targets because they're just going to have to go somewhere. Because if you're blanketing CD in some way, obviously their team's going like, we can't let CD keep doing this over and over again. The number
Hmm.
2 guy is going to get chances, and that was kind of the thing. It was like there's Tolbert, there's a tight end, there's Cooks. Now these options are kind of whittling away, and it's just kind of like you said, it's Tolbert, and that actually is a huge boon to his value because if he's clearly the number 2 target, they're going to go to him, and he's going to be starting getting fed targets. So
Yeah, that's the only thing is I think on the team I would say he's probably the third. I would think Ferguson just seems quite a bit involved. But it really might come down week to week on whether they're ahead or behind because
they're
Ferguson could be more.
they're separated by 1 right now.
Are they separate? Okay.
29 to 30, and Jake Ferguson is 30. So it's just like, is
Yeah.
it like, yeah.
I was just trying to remember gameplay. Like Ferguson seemed more of the move the chains, whereas
Yeah.
Tolbert would seem had the more explosive plays, and you'd want to kind of lean that way if anything. Yeah. Obviously, he's going to be the shiftier, faster player. But
Tolbert's also there's 1 week of 9, but it's basically like 9 and a 10 week, and there's some other weeks where it's like a little bit less. Whereas Jake Ferguson's consistently getting the targets. But if, like we said, if like Cooks is out, there's less at the wide receiver position. I expect the tick up to continue to tick up because they're just going to throw it there. Like you said, like Ferguson's been there before, and the teams know about Ferguson. So the last guy that's going to get covered, someone has to. You have 3 good receiving options. The third guy is going to be the guy that should be winning the routes the most because if they're in theory good, you can't cover all 3 of them with double team. I think there's a lot of good things there. So
yeah,
I like that. Anybody else? Let's see. Week 5, who released Colby Parkinson, 13. There you go. Them and did I see 2 get a bunch of targets? 10. I don't want to. I've talked last week on how I want to avoid that situation, but I feel like if you're going to now have a receiver, no, I'm not ready to say that. I still don't want any receivers, but I do like Colby Parkinson as a fine 6 point a week tight end. Like I'm comfortable saying he's going to get looked at enough where you're like, okay, I'm comfortable with that. The one that I do like a lot is Brock Bowers. I think my late round call on Brock Bowers is playing out pretty nice. Like. Especially with Devontae Adams not playing, they're just feeding the ball a little bit. So that's been pretty nice. And he got a bunch of targets this week too. So
yeah, you tight end number 1, Brock Bowers. Holy cow! Super late round value so far this year. Speaking of tight ends, I mean the game just ended, but Kelsey finally has back to back, solid weeks. I mean, still hasn't caught a touchdown yet, and going into a bye week this upcoming week for week 6. So those owners will have to accommodate, but at least we're seeing 19 targets over the last 2 games and a good chunk of yardage to go along with that. So just kind of a weird slow start for him, and relatively, I mean, you look at like the matchups for like the ratings wise, relatively soft defenses against the tight ends for fantasy points. So it's just kind of unfortunate he didn't take advantage. But
yeah, one more target. Brandon Ayuk, I think, clearly is becoming a favorite of Brock Purdy. He throws to him. I think he's gonna when everyone's healthy and everything's up to speed. Brandon Ayuk's gonna be his number 1 guy. Debo's gonna be the guy they manufacture touches for. Brandon Ayuk will be the guy that naturally gets the touches. I think more natural wide receiver. That makes sense. Like true wide receiver. When you think of wide receiver, I think it's gonna be Brandon Ayuk. And I think that's been showing up this week, especially because they're kind of all now healthy and kind of all now playing. 12 targets led the team, so I think that's looking forward. That's going to be the guy, I think. So let's get to pickups if you want, or drops. Kareem Hunt, as weird as it sounds, 70% rostered. He's clearly the guy. With I can't remember the fullback's name now. For them, I was just watching the game. He fumbled again, 2nd week in a row.
Or
yeah, the fullback. No, the fullback for Kansas City. What's his name?
I'm sorry, the fullback. No,
can't remember. Stone or Strong or something. I've drawn a blank. I had it earlier in the day. I was like, I'll talk about him
right here.
No, of course I can't even remember his name. But Kareem Hunt's going to take the job from him, and it's going to be his solely, I think. So How many did he get today? How many touches? I
You mean
just missed.
Carson Steele? Is that who you're
That's
talking
it.
about?
Yes, Carson Steele.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Uh, yeah. He had 27 carries today. I had no idea. Yeah, so Kareem Hunt is clearly the guy as of like right now. Like
Yeah.
that game did solidify it for you. That fumble was like it was early in the game. Getting the kids to bed, missed. Every time I looked up, I feel like Kareem Hunt was getting the ball, but I didn't know it was 27 times. But yeah, he's the guy for sure there. We talked about it. Another one big one there. Wandale Robinson, 63% rostered. That's going to be big. He did get some Witherspoon on him last week, so that's kind of why they're going to shut that. They didn't go as great that week, but good. And Dontavian Wicks for Green Bay. I think with everybody being out, who's going to be out, he's going to be the number one. The Rams game was just a little weird because the Rams are weird. So, but I think Wicks is the guy there going forward. Is there anybody you like, JT?
I'm sifting through it, and it's just like trying to think of it in terms of just like, would you really want to use your waiver on it? Is it really worth it for week 6? I mean, a couple of these running back situations are like kind of in flux. I feel like Brown in Cincinnati starting to take over. Moss is dinged up, and then Tank Bigsby has gotten the line share, ran a lot better, and then they're saying, "Oh, ATN, he injured his shoulder." I was like, "Did he? Did it really matter at that point?" But those are the two off the top of my head. But I'm trying to think in the context of waivers. I don't know unless I'm hurting for something. But
I like Josh Downs, Colts guy, especially with Flacco.
21 targets last 2 weeks with Flacco. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I feel like when Richardson shows up, they'll be like, "Look, this Downs guy's pretty good. Let's manufacture some stuff." So, might not be as big, but I feel like you're seeing like this guy's a NFL guy. Let's even if like the quarterback switches, let's keep targeting this guy.
Yeah, and he just started off the season injured, so I think he's already supposed to be the wide receiver 2 on that team. And Alec Pierce was just getting some of the early love, but he's just only a deep threat. Pierce is, but I think Downs probably legit and very low rostered. I just scrolled away, but I don't know if you have the number. But
yeah, I had 34.
Yeah.
I'll say this: Tyrone Tracy Jr. and I know it's the Seahawks defense, and they've struggled the last 2 weeks to try to find their identity. But 7 yards of pops usually never not by accident, and it just like as someone who rosters Singletary, it's just it looked 9-day difference in a running game, and I'm like, that can't all be on just like the defense. It's got to be something with the Giants and with him. How much is it? We'll see. But I feel like I was like that looked like a shot in the arm. You know what I mean? I'm like, so like you said with Chase Brown, like holding on to him, and Tyrone is 18% roster. I think I might have said that already, but I'm like if I'm a Giants, I'm like maybe do I kind of run it one more week even if he's healthy? And Rico I roster him and I don't even know how to pronounce his name correctly. Waddle, the Dallas running back, 20 carries finally. Stop giving it to Zeke and all these washed running backs. 87 yards. Didn't get a tutty, but still was really nice to see him get like 4.5 yards a carry in a Dallas team that just needs a little bit of help running the football. And then they'll just let Dak and those guys do their thing. But like Rico looked much nicer.
It's like it's his job, and whenever he needs a spell, it's Zeke coming in. I think it's a lot more definitive now.
Yeah, they'd been split, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're just embarrassing yourself. Just
every big drive they needed, every like hurry up offensive series, it was Rico in there, and then I only saw Zeke when Rico was like, "Hey, one play breather." He'd like, "Hold up, one. I just need a breather real quick."
Yeah, just give me one. Yeah, for sure. Let me see here. You got anybody?
The New England running backs. I mean, Belichick leaves, and guess what? It's same old. It's just you never really can trust a New England running back. And Ramondre Stevenson's supposed to be, he's going to be benched to start the game. He keeps fumbling the football, and then he had a breakout game. So should be back to normal. Hopefully, he didn't take any too drastic of measures with that information this last week. Because what is it, Gibson? He got a little bit of opportunity, but he didn't really do much with it, and that's probably as expected.
Well, I mean, he did average 8 yards a pop. But yeah, you're right. He only got 6 touches, so or 7 if you include the one catch. But yeah, so
Right.
he had to roster Antonio Gibson. It was not great, but I kind of knew it might happen, like you said with New England. That's kind of what they do. But
Yeah. And then, gosh, the Browns offense. The only reason why I have Amari Cooper is because you told me he might be traded. I mean, otherwise,
yeah,
I'd be I'd be just alley ooping him into the trash can.
I think you might alley oop him because now with Adams' situation, he now takes over as the guy everyone's looking to trade for.
Yeah, but still, both of them could end up in far better situations, which is really not that hard to envision. But it's just
Yeah.
like,
I just think it'll take longer now because Adams is going to get solved first, and
yes,
then that. So it's
exactly.
just like, whereas maybe like maybe next week. Now you're like, no, maybe a couple weeks. So I'll figure it out.
When's the
You want
do
to
you know the
wrestle
trade
a couple?
deadline off the top of your head?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll find
I
it.
threw it off with like the end of the week because I believe it changed it. So I'm like, I don't know like after a week anymore what it is anymore. So
Oh, it's a month away. It's November 5th,
fifth. I thought it
which
was
is
like around Halloween, but I guess a little after. Okay. Yeah.
Tuesday the 5th. So got a few more weeks of probably hearing a bunch of rumors and waiting out
Yeah.
other news. Yeah, I'm sure people would probably rather Devonta would gain the more headlines, if you will.
Yeah. For sure. Let's see. People who were kind of like out on. We already said Carson Steele. That fumble was just that was rough.
Yeah, I don't know where that steal was made, but sorry, I'll
Only
just leave it at
26% of
that.
roster. Ezekiel Elliott, 53% roster. Drop, cut bait there. That's done. He still got 6 carries and only had 2 yards and pop. Let's see. Anybody else? Trying to look, and I'm looking at all the people who are like, oh, we're rostering this guy. I'm like, but they're, people who are hurt. I'm like, okay, that doesn't, I don't want to like tell you to drop a hurt guy. But DeAndre Hopkins, I know he had a bye week, but I'm just one game over 5 points. I'm just like,
Right.
I'm like, I kind of want to give it one more week, but I also kind of at the same time like, if you could afford it, I guess you could sit one more week. But he's got to show you something next week. I think that's what it has to come down to. It's like you got to get one more week of like 5 targets at some point. You know what I mean? So it just looks like that team is just committed to running the ball and just not throwing him the football basically at this point. So yeah, I'm really kind of down on him. Kyle Pitts too. We just talked about it. 80% rostered. He had a good day ish for Kyle Pitts, 7 receptions, but again, threw for 500 yards. If Kirk Cousins doesn't throw for 500 yards, he's getting like what 5 points. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'm done there. Is there anybody else you're kind of officially out on 5 weeks in the season?
Well, that's a good question. I was not looking at it in my search this way because I was just like, who else is getting dropped? Where I'm like, oh yeah, I mean Ertz, but that's just a tight end that's just not involved in a high scoring offense, which is what it is. But who deserves to get dropped? That's always a
Aaron
fun one.
Rodgers is rostered in 60% of leagues. 63. I'm like, ugh, we're done there. I think. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to see any more there. All of our tight ends, and I'm like, we talk about tight ends. It's like, unless people are dropping Mark Andrews. Are you on that board yet, JT?
Well, I feel like it's
I mean, he
it's
had 2 weeks there, week 3 and 4, were one
it's
target each, no catches.
I think so because I mean even like rostering likely is not hasn't been that great. It was great the
Yeah,
first week and then it was great this week, right? And then it's been a basically nothingness in between.
well, I mean, it was great this week because he scored 2 touchdowns. I mean, he had 13 yards on 3 catches. So other than those,
Right.
if he didn't get those 2 touchdowns, it's a horrible day. So
Yeah, I think it's just I don't think of the Ravens as a passing offense. I don't think you can really like truly rely on either tight end, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
And I'd be okay taking, if Kraft is available, or heck, Strange,
Yeah. Yeah.
looking good. So
He got
it's
another one,
like,
right? He got another touchdown, I thought, this week.
yeah,
Yeah.
target share, in terms of that offense, I mean, that's huge. It's great to be on a great offense, but like, just like we're saying, Ertz, Andrews, likely, it's just like these teams are scoring a bunch of points, but if you're not involved, it doesn't really matter. You might as well be the backup quarterback, like, you know,
Yeah.
put the pom poms in their hands, and it's not fancy relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm trying to think. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah, no, I completely agree. Devin Singletary, 81% rostered, but I'm kind of like, again, we talked about it, I'm like, you need to be worried, I think, a little bit about your job there, Devin. I see people drop in Tyler Lockett. I get it, but also like I'm looking at it and I'm just like, it's 75 yards, only 4 catches I get, but like, that's depending on your league, 9-ish, 10-ish points. Hasn't got a touchdown yet today. You feel or to the season. You feel like that's gonna change at some point. He's getting, he has a week where he had 15 yards. That happens though. I had CD Lamb. He didn't do anything. Chris Olave had like 30 yards today. But other than that, he's got like over 60 yards every other game, and 5 catches each game. I like rostered in 60% of leagues. That's probably about where he should be. He's not like the stud, but I feel like 60% is about where he should be for that. Your guy gets you 9 to 10 points a game. That's pretty solid for wide receiver. I feel like slow down on the dropping. He's up on this dropping list. I'm like 60%.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's like, I roster Tyler Lockett. I'm like, look, like if you told me, especially with bye weeks coming up, if my guy I fill in on a flex is going to give me 10 points, loving it. So like anything less than 60%, Tyler Lockett needs to probably be rostered because he will get you those 9 points a week on a spot where you're missing somebody on a bye week or something like that. I feel like go too low on someone like that on a third option. The Seahawks have been throwing the ball like crazy. Don't be dropping a guy on the most pass heavy offense in the league because he just isn't getting you a touchdown. I feel like that's a mistake.
Yeah, that's a tough start. I feel like any given week, and I probably should look it up, but my feelings like DK is probably going to get the lion's share, and then whoever they want to cover after that, between JSN and Lockett, the other one's going to feast, and then they'll. I mean, you can't cover all three, so it's.
It seemed like definitely week 2. The Patriots like we're gonna just blanket the 2 dudes and let JSN beat us, and then JSN went nuclear. And then they're like, okay, we can't just like blanket 2 guys. We kind of got to like blanket all 3 of them a little bit. And if you're going to do that, DK's going to get his deep stuff and Tyler's going to clean up the middle stuff like they've been doing for, 6 years together, basically. But JSN's going to find his role in there. But Tyler's clearly the Batman to Robin, whatever word he wanted to be in, because he had a much better game last week than DK did. So
Right.
whatever order they're in, it's still those 2 show. And it's JSN's still the third. Clearly they've shifted him into the third. That's just what it is. And so in the pass heavy offense, the most pass heavy, I can't stress this enough. The most passes attempted in the league are the Seattle Seahawks, and it's a number 1A, 1B receiver on that team being rostered in less than 60% of leagues. I think it's a mistake. Again, not the big splashes of the touchdowns, but you got to figure they're coming. Again, they pass it the most. They're coming, and he's still getting in 9 points a game at this point. Like 60, anything less, especially coming into bye weeks and teams that you're missing spots. If someone drops him, I'd be on him, picking him up, because these next 3 or 4 weeks when you've got guys that are coming out, leaving flexes, you're like, I'm going to plug a guy in who's going to give me 9 points in a backup wide receiver spot, or I have some injuries. I'll take it all day. Because there's teams where I'm just desperate for someone to just catch me. Like, people are starting like Jacoby Myers of like Las Vegas. And I'm like, I'd much rather be signing up for Tyler Lockett than going down there or fighting like the backup Packers or the Rams situations. Like if someone drops Tyler Lockett in your league, you need to roster him immediately, because that floor is nothing to scoff at in fantasy, especially in bye weeks where you just need something. I just can't stress enough that 9 points a floor is huge in bye weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, any I guess those are ad drops, but let's do especially for this week, defenses, because that's kind of. Let's see here. I gotta sort by.
Defenses to add.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Week 6. Week 6. Oh, okay. Here we go. It's trying to give me week 5. I'm like, week 5 is over, my guy. Give me week 6. I gotta be honest. The Bears, are they a good defense? Like, maybe not fantasy wise, because turnovers and touchdowns and stuff like that. But I think they're just good at defense, and you kind of just bank on whatever team's good and hope the turnovers come and the sacks come. They're playing the Jags.
And where are they again? They're like, are they the London game or somewhere?
Oh, they are. They are. That's a good call. I believe the Jags are the London game this week. So the Bears then would London game. So early Sunday. Yeah.
The defense travels. Let's go.
I'm saying if they're not rostered in your league, you might want to consider those Bears. Where the Bears at? 48% rostered. So yeah, that'd be one for sure. Just quickly looking at it, who I'd be sorry. I'd be looking at ooh, there it is. I'm scrolling down it. It is just all the teams that you're like, that might be a sneaky pickup, and you see who they play. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia defense is coming off the bye, playing Cleveland, 36% rostered.
Yeah,
Seems pretty juicy.
Defense, only because they play New England. I'm looking at opponents more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you said Eagles. I'm looking at the Bills, who play the Jets, and I just don't think the Jets are ever going to figure it out. I think it's just who the Jets are. So
yeah,
Bills have talent, and so I feel like they might figure it out. So maybe the Bills against the Jets there.
Chargers coming off the bye, facing the Broncos.
That's true. In Denver. There you go. Yeah, I like that one. I think that's pretty much it, though. The other ones are kind of all self-explanatory ones you don't really want to touch. There's a lot of like high-powered offenses playing each other too, like Baltimore Commanders. You're like, I don't want any part of whatever's going on there for you. I don't know why you'd be rostering a Commanders defense other than like a pickup or here they're playing Cleveland,
right.
Like other than that, but like definitely not against Baltimore or something like that. You're like, oh, the Broncos are pretty good, but like you just said, they play the Chargers, who maybe the Broncos depends on like what you think that Chargers defense. Maybe that's a defense game. Chargers versus Broncos, both defenses. Maybe roster them both, see what happens. Cincinnati's defense. See, Cincinnati's defense is just so bad, but they're playing the Giants, and you're just like what do you know? But then, yeah, the Giants defense.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati defense is so bad, so you're looking at the Giants offense, but they're not great. So you're just like, I might just avoid that situation altogether. So it's rough. You kind of nailed it with the Eagles, with I think they get right game against Cleveland. Steelers against Vegas. That's one, but Steelers is probably 80% rostered. That one's gonna be rough to sneak away from somebody. Yeah. I think those are pretty much the D's that need to be worried about. All right, you want to talk about our fantasy Dad Bod Player of the Week?
Yeah, it's Colin Saunders. I don't know if you're watching the Monday night game, but big boys, big toys, 6 foot, listed 324, and let's see, Western Illinois product with the number 50 D tackle, number 50, just looks out of place.
In the end zone, saves a tutty,
agile, explosive.
We were talking about it before. Ball's tipped and he one hands it and brings it into his chest. And we discussed the most impressive part was not even for a second thought about taking a knee. He's like, we're running this. And he booked it, I think, almost 60 miles an hour. Got to 16 miles an hour running outside. I don't know where he got, but it was like to 35. So it's clearly better than running taking the touchback too. So good on you for understanding you got wheels. Big boys got wheels too, Respect. You got the head of inertia, and it was fun watching those wide receivers try to bounce into him and try to tackle him. It was real cute, but it did not go. It did not go well for those two. And so pick another big boy to take him down. Yeah, once he got a head of steam going, it was only so many people on that field were going to be able to take him down. So it was fun to see. If only he had scored. I saw like a replay where it was like that tag was like he takes it out and he's going to go running, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to score. he's going to take 101 yard to the house, but still got it to like a 35, which I respect. Respect.
And I just pulled up Pro Football Reference. It's his first interception of his career.
Make it count. Mahomes in the end zone in Kansas City. There you go. There you go. Only way it would have been better is pick six, but I guess not pick sixing it. You are taking six off their board, so ipso facto, you're kind of doing the same thing, just in reverse. So we'll take it. We'll take it.
Right. Real quick, because I didn't get a chance to ask you, Juju Smith-Schuster,
Oh,
is he the wide receiver to like kind of pick up in lieu of? I mean, we're going into a bye, so I mean, you don't need to
yeah.
burn a waiver, but
I say no. I've fallen into Juju trap with Kansas City before, just a couple years ago. I would have thought this already had happened. He was younger, he was more. So I think he's there just because he knows the system.
Yeah,
But I don't know if it's like for real. It might be, it's one of those. He might get a couple targets, but I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think he's going to be the guy. So I think he's just going to fall into be one of the pieces again in that offense. So no, long answer short, no. Unfortunately,
yeah. And then the only other name I was just coming back through, just to make sure we covered everybody on my mind was Trey Sermon out of Indy. I rostered him this week because I had Mixon out, and so it ended up being a solid week. But again, it's just going to be dependent
on Taylor.
on if JT comes back or not. But if he doesn't come back, I feel like you roll with him. But the outlook right now is questionable, so it's rolling up to positive that JT will. So just keep an eye on that. But Sermon's definitely a nice plug and play if it comes up.
Yeah, hit a good
heavily
game.
Involved. Yeah, 10 carries, 6 targets. So
yeah, he had a good game. I did not play him. That was dumb. Oh, but I didn't play him because I had Aaron Jones, who got hurt in the first quarter. So was going to be nice, but it was like all my options. I was talking to my brother at your birthday party because we're running around, and I'm like, I should do these. I was like, I think this is the right play. And we're like, yeah, this is the right play. And then they all should have done the opposite thing just for other reasons than what we had thought. And I was like, well,
sure.
I didn't know Aaron Jones was going to get a hit pointer in the first period, first quarter. So things like that. So I was like, well, what are you going to do? It's fantasy.
Yeah, that's the tough thing with football. It's like kind of all or nothing because it's just it's just one game.
Running backs, it's just like you just hope they survive all year. That's really the game with them. Yep. I could have drafted Chris McCaffrey. Just kidding. I never had that shot, but yeah. So
all right, cool. Short and sweet when it's only football, right? It's the first week. Just keep watching those MLB playoffs. So the AL, each one's tied up 1-1 now. Scooble Show and Kansas City got it done.
Yelled some expletives at the fans there. Love it. Spicy. I mean, and hitting a home run off that bullpen too was just like the odds. I was like, I saw it, and I go, oh man, they got past Scooble. They're done. Like that Cleveland bullpen is just nasty as all get out. I was like, oh, sober. Like Detroit, you got to get off the starter. But our Northwest boy, Tyler Boyd, or did I say Tyler Boyd?
Yeah, I think you did. That's wide receiver.
Yeah, I was like, I think of football. Matt Boyd shut him down for at least almost 5 innings. So I was like, you're gonna have to score with Scooble out there. No, we're gonna run Dinger in the 9th off Class A. I hear that guy's pretty good, but yeah, they did it. It was fun, and the Dodgers game was spicy. I mean, it was just yesterday. It was a blow, but it got spicy, and so I can't wait for Game 3 tomorrow.
I saw a funny tweet. It was just like, you know what? Like the Padres are pretty bold because they keep getting the balls thrown back in the field at them when they're on the defense, but they go right back out there and they keep hitting the baseballs over the fence back at the fans. And so, you know what? It's just going to fuel it. I was just like, touche.
That's funny. That's a good one. I did not hear that, but yeah. Just keep hitting them back. They keep throwing them to you, and just keep hitting them back over the wall again. You send it back.
Yeah, that's what you want to see. Like, you don't want to see the Padres just kind of like take it. But I mean, that whole team's pretty cocky. I didn't expect they would.
Especially with Manny Machado and Tatis, I never thought they would ever roll over to anybody. Like, of all those two guys are going to let somebody know about it.
But that's a really cool rivalry to have. And I mean, I probably would have picked the Padres rolling into once the playoffs got set, I think that's would have been my bet my money on for Padres, because I just felt like they were the most well balanced. But that doesn't mean anything, because play of baseball is electric.
Yeah. I mean, the Dodgers just that offense. You know what that offense is, but yeah, their starters are just they're banged up. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to have someone throw a baseball, and the Padres are relatively healthy, minus Joe, who just announced to TJ. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, it's a bummer, especially this time of year. So he's going to completely miss
That's next year.
2025, and then
they were like, oh, he might be able to pitch, and they're like, actually, he's not pitching next year. Kind of swung in that one. Yeah, bummer for him. But yeah, I was like, you're right. They're definitely more balanced. So can Ohtani just mash himself out? Can those MVPs just mash it? Mookie Betts though, 2 for like 24 or whatever it was, those last postseason games or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Got to step up, Mookie. Got to step up. But yeah, it'll be a fun game. I'm definitely watching that one tomorrow. The National Leagues, I like the American League Series, but I think the National Leagues, the ones I'm like, here we go. Yeah, those 4 teams are fun and do not like each other. So
right, yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's just the tougher gauntlet in the NL a little bit. I mean, those are some legitimate NL teams, whereas the AL is just like they have their flaws. Like
every team has a major flaw, I feel like. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So
but
good stuff.
It'll be fun. They're all tied up 1-1, so it's basically start over.
The fans win. Congratulations, more baseball.
There we go.
That's what I enjoy. So,
and it's really nice when your teams. I saw someone said it's mainly about baseball, but I've related to hockey playoffs as well. There's so much fun when your team's not in it, but when your team's in it, it's like the most painful thing ever. And I'm like, that's completely true. It sucks when your team's in it because it's just like so nervous all the time. Horrible. But watching from an outsider's perspective, like, this is fantastic. I don't care what's happening. But it's just I remember the feeling of what it's like to be in it, and it's so nerve-wracking and painful all the time.
Right? Because like when it's not, like my oldest was like, "Oh, who do you want to win?" I was like, "I want to walk off. Like I just want drama right here. Like I don't care.
Yeah, like I just want
I just want I want to see it just domination. Whatever it is. I want to see
the Padres,
fireworks
but I want to see yell at each other. I want to see that. If like one team's gonna dominate, I want the other team to get pissed and like, man, this is awesome. Like they're all chirping at each other, and they're next game's gonna be even crazier, and just like I want to see that. And like, yeah, so I agree completely. Yeah. Sweet.
Cool. All right. I want to go watch Back to the Outback, because you were talking about the snakes and the spiders in your yard. So I don't know if your oldest has seen that movie, but I highly recommend it. Back to the Outback. I want to check it. I would check Hulu first, is my inkling, but you could always look it up. It's 21 release, Australian. A bunch of venomous animals that people like kind of like shudder and don't want. They like try to escape the zoo and go back to the outback. It's a good one.
Okay.
It's kind of like off the beaten path, kind of like
I think I've seen it. I think I've like seen like the I remember seeing like the poster for it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah.
It just, when you were talking about dealing with everything, I was like, I want to kind of watch that one again. It was pretty good.
Is that so? A snake, a spider, a koala?
Mm-hmm.
A spider. What's that lizard?
I
remember that. The one that actually
scorpion.
Yeah, there's a scorpion.
Yeah.
Lizard. They're supposed to be pretty venomous. Those little lizards or whatever they are. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just know Tim Minchin's in it. So. Wait, I think he is the koala, if I remember right. Pretty Boy? I think that's the koala.
I think. Obviously I don't know the names of but
you don't know Tim Minchin because he's a famous ginger, and that's the only reason why I know him.
I know Guy Pearce. I love Guy Pearce. He's Frank. I don't know who Frank is.
Yeah. Eric Bana, you know him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who doesn't know Eric Bana? Big dreamy over here.
All right. So if you have any questions regarding Week 6, sit start, ad drop, tweet us at Fantasy Dad Pods. But otherwise, he's Sean. I'm JT. As always, we thank you for joining us. We appreciate you listening. Take care. Be well. And until next time, see ya.
See ya.